What were your thoughts in the sort of final 10 minutes, Mick? It was a stunning comeback.
Oh, yeah, well, it wasn't the last 10 minutes. I just thought it was a very gutsy win, all up. We lost 6 players from last week, all injured, all can go through the middle. So you have to change everything up, and the boys accepted that. So I thought it was one of the better wins I've been associated with. And I mean that because it's easy to get caught up in the moment, but when I see where we were before the match, where we were during the match, and how we ended up, that to me, you know, it's a good growth game. It's whether we can actually now learn a lot from it and grow from it.
What do you think they can learn from it, Mick?
Well, I've always said there's only one siren that counts. I suppose the one that starts the game is pretty handy, but the one at the end is the best one if you're in front. So it's how you get there. You know, we're always process driven, and I thought that when the occasion come that we had to do something that disrupted the opposition, or you know, we almost gave it away a couple of times because we didn't use the ball well or in the right option late. But even that's a learning curve, and we'll go through those scenarios with players that perhaps haven't been in those positions before. So yeah, it's just, you know, it's a very good. You learn a lot from those games, both good and bad, but more importantly, you learn how to win.
Were you becoming frustrated by the decision making and turnovers at times?
Oh, that's what I mean. We probably went too far. Given the players that were out and the players we readjusted in the game, it become, you know, it was an adjustment for them, and I think that it was almost adjustment for them reposition, but also the way they played, which then put pressure on what they were doing to the football, and we just had to go back to bare basics of what suits the players, even though they had to play in different roles, but still be what we expect in regard to disposal and decision making.
When did you know you wouldn't have Carassa?
Well, basically yesterday this morning, you know, just firm it up, yeah.
You would have been happy with the tackle count, I guess, Mick?
Yeah, we've been very good in tackle count in the last few weeks, last couple of weeks. Yep.
Do you attribute that momentum change in the last 10, 15 minutes to?
That's a good question. You'd love to be good enough to know where it comes from. I guess, you know, that it could very well have been the way we were going. It could very well have been a 5 to 6 goal loss, because it just looked like we just couldn't get it right. But, you know, it's an easy message to give, but it's hard to interpret, and it's hard then to execute. And that is, we just needed to pinch a steadier just to break their momentum and see whether we can actually then just maybe throw a little bit of doubt into their side. Now, as it turned out, I can't even remember who kicked the first goal.
Carlton.
Yeah, maybe that's right. So that, whether that's a goal, but you change momentum when the scoreboard changes negatively against you in a game that's had been seesawing, and both sides were defending like there's no tomorrow, which sometimes opens up the game.
Speaking of momentum, what does this sort of win do? You've got back-to-back wins now, sort of heading in the bye in a couple of weeks. You're sort of back pushing for the top 8, and it just goes to show.
Oh, no, that's you know, quick. You can say what you like about top 8 and top 4 and top everything else. It's not what we hear about. You don't get me. I was just saying we're all process. There's only one. There's one siren that counts. It's the last one, and the one that counts the most of all is the one at round 22, and it tells you whether you're in or out or whatever the difference is. And if you start to look at where we are on ladders, that's for supporters and you guys. And I've said it regularly, without saying it again. You know, the focus is on the very next day, our recovery day, then the next day, then the next day. Then that's what it'll be.
Does that momentum swing halfway through that last quarter come from a couple of senior individuals, group of guys, or was it pretty well?
Bruce, I couldn't tell you. Just, you know, it's not, you can't. You might pinpoint a thing, but at the end of the day, it's really got to be gathered by a mass of people. The one player is not going to change the course of that game. It has to be a collective.
They kicked. Oh, I was actually going to ask you about the deliberate out of bounds. To be honest, we were a bit bemused.
And Pete, do you really think I'm allowed to answer? And what do you think my answer?
I'll ask you
Well, put it this way,
obvious
Peter. What would you really think my answer would be if I was allowed to answer it?
that defenders had little option but to do what they did in that instance.
Well, I could be. You haven't totally interpreted what I would say, but I'm not allowed to say what I'm.
How's Chris Yaron?
He should be okay. He should be okay. You know, he's another one that just pulled up a bit tight. We just weren't prepared. We had Menzel there. He's in fair nick, so it's a pretty easy choice.
Is it a back for him or for Yaron?